do. There's no interruptions because the phone doesn't ring and, none of those kinds of things. So he's found it to be pretty good. And generally, apart from when he was really busy when this pandemic started, he's usually home, somewhere between 12 and 1. And, so after we finish these meetings, we usually have some lunch. And then if it's not raining, we either drive somewhere and walk, or we walk here. Like yesterday, we live on a golf course. And there's a trail around this golf course. So yesterday, we walked around the golf course on the trail, and we ran into a couple that are friends of ours that live a few blocks away. We've run into them on the trail. This is about the third time we've run into them. It's very funny. You're saying
that is nice.
We'll walk together. It's very funny. But so we ran into them again yesterday. Had a little visit with them on the trail.
That is nice. That is nice.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone. I am Chris Berryman, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome, everyone, to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream today on YouTube and also LinkedIn Live. Just to give you a heads up, we're having some issues with Facebook right now, so you'll see the replay of yesterday's Share and Care and today's Conversation for Humanity later on this afternoon or sometime first thing tomorrow morning. This is one of 3 open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace, humanity in the workplace, and it can in a very constructive and powerful and positive way. We want to know what the issues are out there that people are facing, because it is our goal to work both with the employers and employees to bring humanity back to the workforce. And again, we'll be going live on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, all at 3 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time. Feel free to invite your friends, family, co-workers, colleagues to all our events. And, of course, share the replay and hashtag with the hashtag replay in the comment section of either LinkedIn Live, YouTube, or Facebook when Facebook comes up and everything like that. And as you know, Share and Care Sandy, of course, is, like I said, tomorrow. Sandy Chernoff is here with me today. And then I host a Conversation for Humanity. Sometimes we even with a guest host, you never know. And then Carl Fedigan will be on tomorrow for Humanity Happy Hour. And like I said, as you jump on, feel free to comment in the chat either on LinkedIn or on YouTube or on Facebook, and let us know where you're from. And also, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the chat and everything like that. And of course, we would love to reach out to you. So say hello where you're from, and we'd love to talk with you. So today, what we'll be talking about is about legacy. And hello, Tyson. How you doing today?
Hi, Tyson. Nice to see you.
Pretty good, actually.
It's always nice to see you.
I'm just extremely tired because I haven't worked a swing shift in a while. And I just started as a delivery driver for Pizza Hut last night. So
you've had a long days already.
You're a busy guy.
Well, I mean, if you look at it technically, I'm working 3 jobs right now. So
it's a good thing you're young, Tyson.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like I'm in my 40s. No offense to you guys. I've had back pain for a while because I went through an accident and a work injury within days apart from each other, so my back is still messed up.
Yeah.
Have you seen a chiropractor?
I haven't really had the money to.
Because, I mean, I've had back problems almost my whole life, because in dentistry, what you do is you sit, you lean, and you twist, none of which is good for your back. And after 40 years of practice, most people end up with back problems and hand problems, different issues with your hands as well. And I'm very fortunate. I have a wonderful, wonderful chiropractor, and he has helped me, and I go and see him, and he, crinks my back and whatever else he does there. And then he gives me some exercises to do, and my back pain goes away. He's just amazing. He used to have his office really close to me. I used to be able to walk to his office. Now I have to drive, but he's just fabulous. He's so good. And so,
well, I mean, I've I've been thinking about it, but it slowly has been getting better. But I still I wake up and I'm like creaking and cracking as I'm trying to get out of bed. So
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun when you hear those cracks and everything.
Well, usually the reason why we stay in pain, Tyson, is because our spine is out of alignment. You know, if one of the vertebrae is just not quite sitting right, it squeezes on the nerve that's in the center of your spine, and that's what causes pain. So, you know, what my guy does is, you know, he feels where it is, and then he puts it back into where it should be.
yeah.
So that's why, you know, and he's, I mean, there are good chiropractors and there are chiropractors that aren't good. So, you know, this guy was recommended to me, funny, by one of my patients. So,
I mean, I've been thinking about it because I need to, because I just turned 21 and I have the feeling like I'm in my 40s. Yeah, I need to fix something.
yeah.
Right. Get it now before you have to wait later. Then you end up saying, "Oh, the pain is even worse now in my 40s than it was in my 20s."
Yeah. Because
Well, plus, with me working in warehouse a lot, I kind of destroyed my back doing so.
Yeah. Hi, Carla.
Hello, Carla.
How's it going?
I'm good. I had a hard time getting on. How are y'all?
Good. I would ask around though, Tyson, to make sure that we're like, maybe ask your physician if he knows a good one. Because as I said, some of them aren't good.
Yeah.
But, you know, if you
Plus,
find
out here, there's multiple, so I just gotta find a good one. And
otherwise, you come and visit me, and I'll take you to mine.
There you go.
Mama Sandy will
There
take
you
care
go.
of you.
if my car would make the drive.
Well, that's important.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
So
because right now I got so much work to do in my car, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
There's
well,
always something.
you don't want to
Always
take
something.
not running properly on a long trip. No.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm staying in my local area for right now.
Fair enough. Makes sense. I get it.
Yep. So today what we'll be talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is legacy and how can we actually establish a legacy not only in our own lives, but more importantly, maybe in a business dynamic. Can we actually pass on not only what we have learned, but pass on what we like to leave to others, like our friends or family or our dear loved ones, or even better yet, to the very people who are the very heroes in said businesses today that say, hey, I want to leave this to you. You've helped me so much. This is what I'm going to give back to you. So that's what we'll be talking about today, is about legacy in business. So I will start with you, Miss Carla. What does a legacy in business mean to you?
Well, to me, it means it's at a lot of different levels. I think on a personal level, if you leave your legacy, you're leaving your character, your humanity, your values, your morality that you pass on to your children and your grandchildren. And that in turn will affect your work ethic and how you show up at work and what kind of work and commitment that you put into what you're doing. And then I also see it on a financial level too, that you can leave a legacy company for your children. That it's not about having $1 million that you can spend while you're alive, because you can't take it with you. But you know, if you could provide for your kids' education to where they didn't have any college debt when they got out of college, or you could, help them set up, to get their career off on the right foot or something like that. I'm not saying buy them $1 million condo in New York City or anything like that, but really, if you could help your kids off financially, that would be a nice thing to be able to leave them as a parent.
Sandy, what say you?
I agree with Carla, and it's one of the things that we did, because living in Vancouver and our son lives in Toronto. In Canada, those are the two most expensive real estate markets in the country. And so one of the things that we did is we put money aside so that we could help each of our kids buy their first home. And so we helped Mark buy a condo, and he used that condo when he sold it as the down payment for their house. And for our daughter, we helped her buy her first condo. She's now in a townhouse. And when she sold the condo, that was also her down payment for her townhouse. But we also, Carla, did the same thing for their education. We didn't want our kids to start out with huge debt. And education is very expensive, especially when you go through, not just 4 years, but each of our kids did 6 years of university. It's expensive. And we didn't want them to start out with debt. So we put money aside so that we could help them. But for my business, from a perspective, the legacy that I feel I've left or that I'm leaving is that many of the organizations that I've worked with have gained from the training that I've offered them. And that's part of what my legacy is. I also have 2 young men that I know who, when I retire, and they keep asking me when I'm going to retire, they want to buy my business.
Nice.
They want to buy my client list. And I know that both of them are very capable, and so they will carry on the business. And so that will be another legacy that gets left behind, is, that my business will carry on with somebody else running it. If my son was here, I would give it to Mark, because he could probably run it. But he got it from Toronto, and because his wife is a 3rd-generation Torontonian, they're never coming here. So in fact, it's very funny when they come here and visit. Mark drives Kim around, and he says to her, Kim, look at the mountains, look at the ocean, look at how green it is here. And she turns to him and she goes, it's never happening. Well, her whole family is in Toronto, really, everyone. When they got married, they sent one invitation out of town. They had a cousin who lived in Seattle. Everybody else lived in the Toronto area. And of course, for Mark, it was entirely different. We have a couple of friends in Toronto, and we have one cousin there. But the rest of his guests came from, Alberta and BC and from Oregon. All over the place, because, that's just where all our friends and family are. So, very different. But that's okay. I mean, it just is what it is. Kim always has a nice time when she visits here, but she has no intention of ever leaving Toronto. And the reason Mark stayed back east, because he went to university back there, is because he felt that there would be more job opportunities in a large city. And here's the funny thing. Where does he work? He works in Edmonton. So right now, he's not going back and forth like he was before the pandemic. But before the pandemic, every Monday morning, he used to fly to Edmonton, and he would come home in time for dinner on Thursday night. So my daughter-in-law was basically a single mom. Yeah. And she works full-time because she's got a master's in education, and Kim has several jobs. But right now, they're both working from home. And because they've shut everything down in Ontario, the boys are also being homeschooled. But my daughter-in-law has a master's in education, so it's no big deal for her to be, helping the boys at home. And because Mark's done a lot of training, he also is helpful. And besides, Mark's really good on the computer. So the boys love it that they have, both their parents at home right now. I mean, they have a name, because before that, even Kim was doing a lot of traveling. She has a regional position in Ontario. She teaches teachers in the region, but she also works for Google. And before this pandemic, she used to travel literally all over the United States, giving conferences, speaking at conferences, teaching educators how to use different aspects of Google, like Google Docs and, all the different aspects of Google. And, it's something that she likes to do. So now she does it all by webinar. Yeah. So she's working from home. But I think a legacy is something that it is important. And we've told our kids, that, what's been fun for us is, instead of them inheriting everything when we're dead, because we gave them money to buy their homes, we can at least enjoy watching them, enjoying part of their inheritance, if you will, because they have homes that they really like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We've helped them with other things also, certain things that Mark and Kim wanted to buy for the boys. So, we've helped out with some of that stuff. And I've told the kids, if we die soon, you guys will get a lot of money. Otherwise, we're using it up.
Yeah. Well, I told my dad just to spend all of it because I didn't want to pay taxes on it.
Well, it's just, we tease the kids all the time, but it's just a matter of, that's part of what parents leave as a legacy is you leave your estate. And
well, I think a legacy, well, I guess, yes, legacy financially is important, but I think it goes so much deeper than just the financial part.
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, Carla. You leave your morals and your ethics and, the way you live your life. It's an example to your children. And they learn from that example. I mean, I learned from my grandfather and from my parents because they were all very active in our local community doing a lot of volunteer work. And so have I. And our kids do as well, because it's part of, in fact, I went to a conference. This was very funny. I went to a conference in Chicago. This was a number of years ago. And a woman came up to me. She was from London, Ontario. And she came up to me and she went, "Is Mark Chernoff your son?" And I said, "Yes, he is. Why do you ask?" And she said, "Well, when we had our bazaar, he helped us." I said, "Well, what do you mean?" "He got a whole bunch of volunteers to come and work at the bazaar." So I laughed. And I said, "Well, that's because he grew up working at the bazaar here." So he knew what to do. So she said, "Well, good." I said, "Well, it just depends on how you raise your kids and what you teach them. Kids are sponges. They're just little sponges. They soak up everything. So it's a matter of what example are you giving? And if you give an example that you're a good community person and that you help others and, so on and so forth.
You're hardworking and you're ethical and you're honest.
So that's the example they have. And, we're going to aspire to be similar. I mean, my daughter went into healthcare. She's a dietitian and she loves what she does. And one of the things she likes best about it is she gets to help people. So, it's just a matter of what are you doing? And Mark he's very personable, my son. And when he would go to because this company he works for in Edmonton is a construction company. And they've been buying different companies all over the States and Canada, and even in different places. Mark went to Lagos, Nigeria. He went to Hong Kong. I mean, you can't believe where they've been buying these places. And wherever he went, if he had to go back for more training, they didn't want anybody else to come. They only wanted
him.
Back.
That's awesome.
Because he's a very good trainer and he's very personable. And all the companies that had him wanted to keep him. And the reason he has the job he has is because this company is one of the clients of the company he used to work for, which is in Toronto. And they stole Mark. And the first year he worked there, he had to sort of hide. But, now they know that he's working for this company. But it's just, they decided they wanted him for themselves. And so they offered him a position in their company. And so he decided to take it, even though it was a lot of travel. And it was he went to Newfoundland, he went to Arizona, he went to California, he went to Texas. I mean, he's been literally all over the place because they've bought companies all over. Their main construction is in the oil and gas industry. But because that's sort of a dying industry, they've been buying other construction companies. And they've even bought a few in Vancouver. So Mark even came here. But, it's just a matter of they're smart enough to realize that they've got to expand their horizons if they're going to stay, if they're going to be able to survive, I guess is what I'm looking for. So, it's been kind of interesting. And he also has another contract with somebody, I think in the Eastern United States. He does project management for them. So that's another thing he does on the side. So my daughter-in-law has a couple of jobs and Mark has a couple of jobs. They're very busy, but they're doing very well. They've paid off their mortgage on their house. That was something my daughter-in-law had decided she wanted to do by the time she was 40. And guess what? She did it.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So, I mean, I'm very proud of them in terms of like when they renovated their basement, they didn't take out more money on their mortgage. They saved up and they paid cash for the renovation. And one of
Wow.
Mark's brothers, who's in construction, is the one who did it for them.
Nice,
They
nice.
got a discount because they paid him cash.
So Tyson, what does a legacy mean to you when it comes to business or even in life itself? What does that mean to you?
Well, personally, for me, legacy is more than just money and wealth and leaving that behind. Legacy, the legacy I want to leave is I would make a good impression on everyone, make as many people happy as I can, and serve the community as much as I can. Because I don't really care for money with that kind of stuff. Personally, like with my parents, I grew up off government assistance, so food stamps, Medicare, all that stuff, and so growing up kind of poor, I've come to appreciate the little stuff, like getting this trailer. It's not a big fancy apartment. It's not nothing big. It's just it sustains what we need, and we don't need nothing more than that. If I were to leave a legacy behind, I would want to show that I was a great helper in the community that I live in today. And honestly, it brings me joy to say that I love to help people here. Like I see some like where I live, there's a lot of homeless people out here, and as I'm driving by, going on my deliveries and whatnot, it pains me to see them because I don't see someone who can't get a job or hold a job down together, or who's a drug addict or stuff like that. I see people with potential who are just going through a hard time. So if I can stop, give them a smile, give them a little bit of help, give them like a drink, some snacks, a little bit of cash. If I can do that, then I'm good. If I have some extra bucks in my pocket that I know I'm just gonna blow on candy and dumb stuff, I see a homeless guy, I pull that money out that I was gonna go spend and blow off, and I hand it to them. That's the kind of legacy that I want to leave.
Nice.
That's good, Tyson. That's very good.
That
Besides,
is nice.
your legacy is also the fact that you've sort of pulled yourself up by your bootstraps and are taking care of yourself. You're managing your life, and you figured out how to do that. Good for you. Seriously.
And I'm doing all this without a high school diploma or GED or any college.
Fair enough.
Yes.
No one says you have to go to college,
No.
you know, and some of the greatest leaders in this world never finished high school. Some of the greatest legacies out there, a lot of them had never finished high school. And, you know, I don't look at money to live extravagantly. And this is another question I'll pose in a minute, but money gives you options. Money gives you the opportunity to live in the house that you want and not be judgmental of others. For me, my retirement years, it's going to be a small ranch. Like people look at me and they go, well, why don't you want a bigger house? I said, I don't want a bigger house. I want a smaller house, you know, that I want to be able to live debt free. And it goes into my next question in a minute, but let's talk about what would we do if we won the lottery, you know? But it gives you options. It gives me the option to not have to work a 9 to 5 to where I can go on a medical mission with our organization. Or it allows me to say, hey, there's a volunteer group getting together at church making PPEs. I want to go do that, and I don't have to worry about taking time off from work because I work for myself. You know, money gives you options. And so at the same time, I think that everyone's like doesn't want to appear that they're extravagant or anything like that. People should not feel bad because they have the opportunity to make an income and live comfortably and figure out what they want to do with the rest. For Tyson, if you're totally comfortable where you are, you know, and I love those little houses that they have now, you know, the cutest little thing, you know, little houses, they're perfect. And whatever you do with the rest of it is up to you, you know. But what would you do if you won $1 million?
If I got $1 million,
Mm-hmm.
first thing I would do is get my dream car, a 1967 Chevy Impala, and then I would pay off any debt that I have, and then give the rest to charity.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
No,
so see, you should not be apologetic to working towards that goal to have that, you know.
Oh,
and
no,
you would have loved my dad's '65 Mustang that he traded in back in 1972.
Now you make it Tyson think now.
Yeah.
The 69 Chevy Impala is from my favorite show, Supernatural, which has taught me a lot about family, friends, and whatnot. I mean, this symbol right here is a lot more in the show, so that's why I went and got it tattooed. But one thing I did want to say, Chris, that quote from Robert Downey Jr. is awesome. Yeah, that one right there.
It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not even about us. It's about legacy. It's about what we choose to leave behind for future generations. And I believe that not only can we do that in our personal lives, but we can also do that in the lives of others in business and do it for a business dynamic. Because the one thing I've come to realize, ladies and gentlemen, is that everything's interconnected to each other. We're all only one human family, number one, but we're all interconnected of the people who we know and how we know them, and how it's almost like I tell people every day, it's not who you know now, it's who you know, so you don't know, so you need to know. And see, that interconnectedness spreads out like a tree and a wildfire to a certain degree. It's because I know Sandy, and Sandy knows Nathaniel, and Nathaniel knows someone, and then next thing you know, Tyson, how do you know so-and-so that knows Nathaniel? It goes from there. Then it goes back to Carla. It just goes on and on and on and on. So, and that to me is also, in a way, says a lot about our legacy, about who we are because of the people we know. And that speaks volumes if you surround yourself with people who are not only invested in themselves, but also are investing in you. Again, the best investment is the human investment, because you can't put a price on someone's value, time, expertise, knowledge, skill set. You can't. And we have been equating that to me for far too long. We're putting the money aspect into play when we actually should be turning around in a 180 and showing the very value of people. Because I tell people every day, the employees are replaceable from the status quo mindset because they got it in their brains that way. But for me, and of course, what Bringing Humanity Together is going to stand for, and will be a foundation set of not only of mine, but also of how we do as we say and do as we do, that people are irreplaceable. And once people see that and know that, that legacy will go far and wide, more than you ever dream of even seeing or even knowing it can be becoming. And I know that.
It's true. Everybody's unique, Chris. Everybody brings their uniqueness to the table. And that's what makes it so interesting. If we were all the same, it would be a very boring world.
Yes. Yes. But again, we can have so much, like you say, Sandy, impact to influence. And that impact to influence can also turn into legacy because of that.
Exactly.
You know?
And that's what makes it fun. I mean, you know, Carla and I both went into healthcare because we wanted to help people. And now both of us have different businesses, but we're still helping people. We're just helping them in a different way than we did when we were, you know, directly in healthcare. And, you know, again, it's just a matter of what example are you setting for your family and for the people that you know. And, you know, I grew up, I told you, with my grandfather, and I was very close to my grandfather. And my grandfather just believed that your role in life was to give back to your community. I mean, that's what he believed. And because he didn't get much of an education, because he had to flee Europe because of the pogroms that were going on. And when they came to this country, you know, they ended up on a farm because that's what they did with immigrants. They put them on farms.
Wow.
So they farmed. But he and his brother started a hardware business, and they used to traverse the country selling hardware. It's now, that business is now owned by one of my cousins. But, you know, the thing is that what he did is he raised thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars for scholarships and bursaries at two of the universities here in Vancouver. So the kids who couldn't afford to go to university and whose parents couldn't help them could go and get a good education. And that's why in the end, Simon Fraser gave him an honorary doctorate, because they wanted to thank him in some way. And he didn't know what to do with it. You know, I mean, I think I told you he phoned me, he wanted me to come down, and he wouldn't tell me what it was till I got there. And then he showed me this letter. He says, "What do I do with that?" I said, "What do you mean, what do you do with it? Ask them when and where." He says, "Well,
Where? What do I wear?"
Exactly.
And so he said to me, "Well, you know, English isn't my first language." I said, "Okay." So this was in the day before computers, guys. He had a typewriter. So I sat down at his typewriter. He put a piece of paper.
Oh, wow.
What do you want
A
to say?
manual typewriter.
Yeah.
With a manual
Yeah.
return key. Yeah, wow. My dad still has one.
What do you want to say? So we talked about what he wanted to say in the letter. And then we wrote the letter, and I mailed it for him. And then he got, back from them when and where and so on and so forth. And the whole family went. I mean, my dad and my mom and my husband and I and our kids and my uncle, who likes to take pictures of everything. And because my grandfather was short, he was barely 5 feet tall, and they wanted to line them up according to size. So they wanted him to be in the front of the line. Well, he was so humble, he refused. He would not be in the front of the line. So the line went like this: height, 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 and then my grandfather at the back, short. And my uncle has a picture of that lineup. It's really funny. Yeah. But that was my grandfather. I mean, he didn't think that what he was doing was anything, special or particular. It was just something that he felt should be done. And to this day, here's a legacy for you, Chris. We have a scholarship at the UBC Dental School in my grandfather's name. And our family contributes to that every year, because we wanted that to remain, because, I mean, he's been gone for a long time. But when he died, it was on the radio. It was actually
really,
yes, it was.
That the community has lost a very important person who contributed greatly to this Vancouver community. And, it was just, I mean, he also had his ear to the ground. He knew the families that needed help. So you would like this, Tyson. So what he would do, and I would go with him because I was a little kid then, he would buy groceries for these needy families. And on the weekends, we would deliver the groceries to these people. And we would put it on their porch. We would ring the bell and we would leave. He didn't want them to know where the groceries came from. He just wanted them to have the groceries. And so, again, that was another thing that I learned from him. You got to help people who are less fortunate than yourself. And the more you can do that, the more of a legacy you leave, because, you're helping people who are less fortunate than yourself. That's why I've done the thousands and thousands of hours of volunteer work that I've done, because I think it's very important to give back to the community. I mean, I've done fundraising for Heart and Stroke and for the Kidney Foundation and, things like that, as well as some of the Jewish organizations that I feel are important. But I still do other things in the community because, who's going to do it? People need to help out. And it's something that's very important. And somebody's got to do it. And right now, most of the charities are really struggling. because, you know, they can't run fundraisers right now and, you know, all those kinds of things that they normally do. And so it's very hard for them to manage things. I have no idea who this is, so I'm not going to answer. So it's just, you know, it's kind of interesting that, again, it just depends on what your example is, you know, what you learned as a kid growing up. And so what you continue to do because you learned that it was something that was important. And it is important to give back to your community. At least, you know, I have always felt that it was. And it was one of the things that I taught our kids. Because, you know, I mean, Yale's also done a lot of volunteer work in the community. And, you know, again, it's what you do. And that is part of a legacy that you leave behind, is having helped different organizations where money needs to be raised so that people who can't afford to have certain things can have them. And you know, it is so important. Well, and part of the money for Heart and Stroke and even for the Kidney Foundation goes to research so that they can, you know, find cures for these things and whatever. And again, and they need that money because, you know, the government can't afford to fund all that research that's necessary. It's got to come from the community, and it's the community in the end who will benefit from that research. So, you know, man up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, even if people, you know, when organizations gave their time for free to volunteer, there's still supplies that go along with it.
Exactly.
They have to be paid for. Because I know I went to I look forward to the world opening up again so I can start doing medical missions again and now that I'm, you know, can set my own hours, that I can actually volunteer more in the community, that it's not just taking a week off to go do it. It's something that I could do on a continual basis in the local community. But you know, it takes money to make medical missions happen, to make research happen, to make all these different things, just for supplies, even though somebody, you know, the team might be giving voluntarily of their time, or maybe they fly somewhere and they pay for their own airfare. You know, you still got to feed them, and you still have to have medical supplies for the clinic, you know, and that all comes from donations.
Well, even when I was a dental hygiene student, what we used to do is we would go to the children's hospital and we would clean the kids' teeth in the hospital for free. And we would take care of it because, you know, they were in there for a while. They couldn't get to the dentist. And a lot of them that were in there, their parents didn't have a whole lot of money. And so as dental hygiene students, we would go in there and clean kids' teeth for free.
Yeah.
And also when it was Halloween, because they couldn't go trick-or-treating, we'd go trick-or-treating, and then we'd bring all the candy to the hospital.
And then you really need to clean their teeth.
Well, but it's just, you know, it's for fun. For the
No,
kids.
you can't go through life without candy. You got to brush up.
Exactly.
Right.
So it just, well, we would bring them toothbrushes too. You know, toothbrushes and floss, and we'd give it out. And it was just a matter of, this was something that we decided as a class to do. And we got permission from the hospital because the dental school and the medical school were the only part of the University of Oregon that were in Portland. And we were on a hill. They called it Pill Hill. That's where the medical and dental school was.
Oh, we have a Pill Hill here in Atlanta too.
Okay, well, there you go. So that's where the school was. And we gave back to the local community by helping out in different kinds of ways because we felt that it was something that we could do, and why not? You know, absolutely. I mean, our class decided that was something we were going to do, and it was something that subsequent classes picked up on. And so
that's a good idea. Yeah, I know our church, we used to do when we go to Haiti, we go to raise money, and I get it that there's people that want to be wined and dined, and then they're going to write big checks. I understand that. But I knew that I wasn't going to, you know, I kind of felt bad because I wasn't in the position to write a big check. I did not want the portion. I didn't have to be wined and dined to give to the medical mission. So every year when it came along and people were like, hey, you're going to dress up, you're going to go. And we just kind of felt like I can't be sitting here whining and dining and having this nice food when there's poor people that aren't eating in Haiti. So what we would, because we used to go to Haiti, so what we would do is we would buy a ticket, but we wouldn't attend, and that was our donation to the medical mission. because I just couldn't wrap around my head around that I was getting a nice dinner dance out of it while these people are down there living with no shoes and very few clothes and little food. And so here's my money and put it towards that.
Well, when my brother-in-law, who has since passed away, but when he was a kid, and his mother used to tell him, you got to finish your dinner, and he'd say, well,
There's starving children in China.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
and his mother, and there's all these. So he'd look at her and he'd go, "So send it to her."
My mother did the same thing. Her mother used to tell her that too, and she'd go, "Well, mail it to them.
You
I'm not
send
eating it."
Yeah, you send them the food. I don't want to eat it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Well, it's true. But there are a lot of ways that we can help. And again, if people don't have the money to make donations to some of these things, they can give their time, Carla.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and that's the thing, that people don't necessarily need to be making, $200,000 donations to these places. But a lot of things need to be done in order to raise the money.
Mhm.
And they need the hands to do it. And if you have to pay people to run these different events, you don't get much out of it because you got to pay people to do it. So it's better if volunteers do the work. And then it's clear profit, whatever, the donations that come in. So
Yeah, absolutely.
it's just a matter of a different way of looking at it. But people need to be educated so that they understand. You don't need to be giving, huge donations. Give your time.
You give your time and talent.
Yeah, exactly.
There's time, there's talent, and there's and treasure.
Well,
And
and
not everyone has a treasure to give, so you give your time and your talent.
right. And you know what? It's fun because you get to
It
know
is fun.
you get to know different people, and you feel really good about putting something on that was successful and knowing that the money that was raised is going to help people who are in need. So whether it's for research or it's for kidney, it doesn't matter what it's for. But you can feel really good about making the time to do something for people who are less fortunate than you. Even if you don't have a lot of money, but if if you're getting by, that's fine. But it's just a matter of, why wouldn't you help out? I mean, I've just never understood. And of course, with volunteers, it's very different than in business because, of course, volunteers don't get paid. So,
Right.
you got to be nice to them if you want to keep them.
Right.
Exactly.
With that,
Chris, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Say that again.
What would you do if you won the lottery?
Who, me?
Yeah.
You.
Oh, now you're really getting into the brain of Chris.
Yeah, that's why I asked.
Yes. Well, number one, I will make sure that my wife never has to work a day in her life again. I won't. That'll be my first priority right there.
Fair enough.
So her everything will be paid off. Car, any debt, all that kind of stuff. And for me, it would be secondarily. I won't even worry about me. I'll worry about her. But then after that, it's all done. I would like to really get a nice house for us to live in, and that we can say it's home. And even though home is only, in a sense, a physical place, to me, home is wherever you guys are. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to have that physical place. So, like I said, if I had that afforded to me, that opportunity, like I said, number one, I'll make sure that my wife is set up for the rest of her life and get her done and say, you no longer have to work as a pharmacy technician. You can come home, do what you love, live the life that we want to love together and do together. And that'll be my, like I said, first things on tap.
Would you stay in Florida?
Carla, that's a big question. Well, as you know, the home office of Bringing Humanity Together is based in Lakeland, Florida, but that could always change, So for me, I have lived in Louisville, Kentucky. Loved when I lived in Louisville, but I would love to see the rest of the world. So it just depends where it takes me. I really can't say. Would love to go see the Pacific Northwest. I would love to go see Hawaii, I would love to go see. There's a lot of places I would like to go see, but like I said, the only place that me and my wife has ever been outside the United States is when we went on our honeymoon to the Bahamas on a cruise ship. And that
I've never been on a cruise.
Yeah, I would love to take her on another cruise. We loved the cruise we went on. The only thing about what the was kind of bad about it, the first night, the wind was so kicked up in the high gear because we were out on the top deck. It was just blowing me and my wife just like crazy because it was really windy. But we loved it, and I would love to go again because she's not much of a flyer. I can fly planes. I have no problem with that, but she doesn't like planes. But I would like, and I think I would love to take her around the world. And if that means if we do it with cruise ships, I would love to do that with her. I think that'll be good. But like I said, I would just start with her first. I'm not worried so much about me. I want to do stuff for her because she's about everything, and that's what I would do.
Well, the nice thing about a cruise is
you like to go on a cruise period, wouldn't you, Tyson?
your hotel comes with you, Chris, so you don't need to be packing.
Well, can you believe that there's actually some people who actually live on a cruise ship 24/7?
I'm going to do that. It's cheaper than assisted living.
There is some. You have to look it up on Google. That there's a couple, I think, cruise ships out there that they have actually now have on board 24/7 residents on these cruise ships. I saw on a Discovery Channel special that they actually live on a cruise ship 24/7.
That'll be me.
Well, if I would live on any cruise ship, I would have to go with Disney. The kid inside me would have to go with Disney.
Tell me that in 20 years, Tyson. Okay.
Well, what's the point of what's the use of growing up if you can't act like a kid sometimes?
That's true, and that's true. I have to give you that.
Yeah, that's true.
But Carla, you mentioned something to me yesterday, and that ties into legacy. You said something about the business that'll be far greater than what you currently did. Do you remember what you said?
No, but obviously you do. I left a lasting legacy on your brain, and I don't remember what I said. On what I said.
What you said to me yesterday is you said, Chris, I know what you're doing here with bringing humanity together will be far more reaching and far more impactful than what Oceanogenics would be.
Mm-hmm.
And that speaks to legacy to me. That's what it sounds like to me. And you believe in the legacy that we will do and leave behind.
Mm-hmm.
Of how we're going to do it each and every single day. And that just really it warms my soul to hear that. That we're a company like we are, a group of people as a community as we are. And you can say that to me and say, this is going to be bigger than what I'm doing right now. That shows vision.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Well, we definitely have a service that we want to offer to people. And the growth is there. And when you have that vision, you can see it. And a lot of people don't even see the vision in themselves for growth, let alone being able to see the vision of growth in a company because they don't believe in themselves.
So when it comes to legacy then, Carla, especially in the business dynamic, why don't we not see that?
I think a lot of people don't believe that it can happen. I think a lot of people don't know how to see the big picture, Chris. They're so focused in on, just sort of themselves and their own small world. They can't open their horizons to look at the big picture. And that's
they're on doing a task, getting a result, doing a task, getting a result, doing a task, getting a result, and they cannot look ahead to see what that big picture is and reverse engineer to make it happen.
Yeah.
Like if somebody says, hey, I want to start up my own company. Well, I run into this all the time. There are young people that say, oh, I want to do a 501c, a charity organization. Well, what are you going to do for money? Well, I don't know. I said, well, you can't really start it until you figure out how much, what you're going to do, what that's going to cost you, and reverse engineer it to say, I've got to do X, Y, and Z, or I have to work so many hours extra in an extra job or whatever to make that happen. It's just not going to materialize. You've got to put some thought into it and decide how you're going to make that happen.
So,
And they can't reverse that,
right?
and figure out what they have to do constructively to make it happen. So they just give up. They leave it out there as a dream somewhere, but they never materialize it.
It's too bad.
So let me ask you this, Sandy. Do you believe that the legacy that we will leave behind as an organization will be far-reaching and far better than what you possibly imagine?
I think it's possible, Chris. I really do. I think once we get this off the ground and start working with the employers and the employees and helping businesses to be more successful and more humane, that we will leave a legacy. Because if more people can learn how to do this, then more businesses will be successful, and so will both their leadership and the people that work with them. It's, again, this stuff isn't rocket science, Chris. It's just really not. But a lot of people just have no idea. Like I've said many times before, just because someone has an idea for a business, and it might be a very good idea for a business, doesn't mean that business is going to be successful. Because unless they know how to run the business and how to, like Carla said, you need some seed money to get something started and get it off the ground. And there are certain things that you need to invest in. And of course, one of them is a good website. Mm-hmm. If you don't have that, I mean, if people can't find you by Googling you or on their phone or whatever, you don't exist, because that's where everybody is today. And if you're not out there in cyberspace, they're not going to find you. So, because that's just how it works. So that is one of the things that has to be in a business plan these days, is you have to have a good website. And if you're not techie enough to build it yourself and, Meditag things and, all the things that help you with your SEO, then you need to hire someone who can do it for you, because that is the key to being successful. I told you before this pandemic, I got 80 to 90% of my new contracts via inquiries through my website. Because push marketing doesn't work for this stuff very well. When somebody has a problem, whether it's an individual or it's an organization, they Google their problem. That's what they do. And so if stuff comes up from your website because you've Meditagged the keywords and so on and so forth, then they'll land on your site. And as long as your site is easy to navigate and they find what they want, you will get an inquiry from your site from these people who are looking for help. If that's what it is, they're looking for help. And, you're right, Chris, it's not about me. It's about them. What can we do to help these people? And, there's lots of things that we can do, because most of the people that are on your team have good experience in doing this sort of thing. And therefore, we can provide different kinds of elements and different kinds of strategies and approaches to help these people to make their businesses more successful and make the people that work with them happier and more productive and more efficient and so on and so forth. Because there's lots of things that can be done, but if they don't know what to do or how to do it, then they're going to struggle. So, again, as I've said this a million times, it's not rocket science. It's really not. But unfortunately today, a lot of these basic things are not taught anywhere. They're not in programs, they're not taught in schools. So people don't learn a lot of these things. Some people are naturally good at some of this stuff. They just are. But most people aren't, and they have no clue, and they don't realize what they need to do. And that's why they struggle.
All right.
So, it's sort of sad. I've always found it sad when I've come into, I think I told you, Chris, one of the businesses that I work with is a big construction company. And the first time I went there and met with the guy who wanted to talk to me, he sat me down and he looked at me and he says, you know, you're going to have to keep coming back here. And then,
Okay.
and in my head, I said, well, I'm glad you know that. And I've probably done 30 or 40 different workshops for them. They wanted help with customer service and with teamwork and, you know, different kinds of things. And we sat down and had a very long chat. And then I started putting together some different programs for them. And I've worked with them for a number of years. He's not there anymore. He retired. But the guy who took over is one of their site supervisors. So I know Adam very well. And, you know, it's just a matter of how does this all work? Well, you know, they're a bunch of construction guys. So, you know, they know their job, but they don't necessarily know how to get along that well.
Yeah.
So it's a whole, or how to deal with the customers. And it's a whole different ball game. And that's why you have to teach them communication skills and teamwork and different kinds of things that will help them to be more successful and keep the business going. So, you know, I mean, again, it's not that hard. This guy realized that they needed some help in this area, and he knew what some of the issues were, and we talked about it, and I suggested different elements for him, and he was happy with the suggestions, so we ran different programs. But it's just a matter of, yeah, we're going to leave a great legacy, Chris, because what we're going to be doing is really going to help businesses, going to help the leadership, going to help the people that work with them. You know, it's to give them the strategies and the approaches that are going to help them maintain that business.
Right.
So that everybody's happy.
Well, like I said, when Sandy, when Carla said that to me yesterday, it just, like I said, oh my gosh, I'm in the right place with the right people at the right time. This was meant to be.
Well,
It's amazing how you get those little aha moments and confirmations of exactly where you, and reminders of exactly where you need to be, and you're at the right place.
Right.
Well, we're mostly on the same page. I mean, pretty much all of us that are, you know, working on this, Chris, we all want the same thing. And we're all bringing to the table our expertise and our experiences so that we can help these businesses to, you know, get things off the ground and make sure that they are operating in a way that's more humane. It's not that hard, but again, because most of this stuff just isn't taught, and it's just not. I mean, it is taught in the dental hygiene program, and that's because we have a national accreditation group in Canada. And those of us who were on it sat down and decided what pieces had to be in the dental hygiene program. And we decided that one of them had to be effective communication, time management, stress management. That those elements had to
And let me guess who recommended those. You.
Well, it wasn't just me. I mean, there was a group of us who agreed that these were important pieces that needed to be in the program because in order to be successful, you've got to be good at these things. And I taught time management, stress management, and a communication skills in a dental hygiene program here in Vancouver for 5 years.
Nice.
And it was fun. It was interesting, and it was fun watching the students realize how important it was, because I used to make them role play in front of the class. So, you know, somebody would be the hygienist and somebody would be the patient. And the hygienist was supposed to be listening to the patient. And if she was talking over them or not listening, the classmates would yell, "You're not listening, you're talking over the patient." They'd yell at her. You know, like it was really funny. So I was so thrilled because that meant they were getting it. They understood what it was they were supposed to be
You're
doing.
like, yes, they got it.
Exactly. So, you know, it's a matter of what are you doing? And, you know, for me, that really, I mean, I left a legacy there because I was really helping these students to be able to be effective when they got it into practice. Because it is very, very important. You can't be effective if you don't have the attention of your patient.
Right.
They're not going to listen to you. And if they don't think that you care about them or that you're doing this for their benefit, then why would they care? So
Well, you left a legacy to your students.
Exactly. I mean, why, you know, you've got to gain their trust. You've got to gain their respect so that they will listen to you and they will know that you have their best interests at heart. You want to help them. So you've got to get that across to people. And if you can, you'll be far more successful because they will listen to you. And I mean, I even had a lot of patients who were nervous wreck when I first started working with them. But then, you know, I helped to calm them down, and they got to see that I really cared about them and was trying very hard to help them. And so they would listen to me, and they would actually do the things that I was showing them to do. And they actually moved forward with some of the treatment protocols that were recommended by the dentist, because it would come back to me. What would you do?
Exactly.
That's what they always say. I'd say, well, what did they recommend? So I'd say, okay, well, here's the advantage of this, and here's the advantage of that. And I'd go into the back and bring out some samples to show them what it actually would look like, so they would have a better idea of what they were talking about. And then they could decide what they thought would be best for them. Because you can't make an informed decision if you don't understand what people are talking about.
Right.
So there needs to be an understanding. And a lot of times, you know, especially in fields like dentistry, medicine, engineering, they use terms that are appropriate for their field, but those of us who aren't in the field don't understand what they're talking about.
Right.
So you have to use lay terms, or you have to use pictures or diagrams or something to get the point across to the people who don't have that background.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, again, it's not rocket science, but it's a matter of helping the patient to be able to make an informed decision, or the client, or whatever. And you can't do that if you haven't explained it to them properly. And if you ask them if they understand it, they're going to say yes, because they don't want you to think that they're stupid.
Yeah, they're going to come.
But, you know,
I don't know what the heck she's talking about, but I got it.
But, you know, if you look at them, you can see they're very confused. They have no clue what's going on. So it's better to show them things, and at the very least, draw a diagram. I mean, do something. I told you, when I taught in the entrepreneurial program at BCIT, most of the students were foreign students. They weren't regular Canadians. And so I always told them at the beginning, listen, if I use words that you don't understand, somebody needs to be brave enough to put up their hand and tell me, I don't know what you're talking about. Because if you didn't understand me, trust me, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of your classmates didn't understand me either.
Right.
And, you know, the whole idea is for you to walk out of here with the concepts of Canadian business. And if I'm not explaining it to you in words that you understand, you're not going to be walking out of here with things that you need. So, you know, and they would nod and you know, walk around the classroom. A lot of them had a dictionary up on their laptop, you know, whatever. But I said, you know, no, we'll come back to it. We'll explain it in using different words. If I need to, I can use the blackboard and, you know, draw things out for you, or give you other resources to check out, you know, different things that would help them to understand that, you know, in Canada, it's different than it is in India. It's different than it is in, you know, in the Far East, whatever. But it's just, we have, you know, different principles here, and you need to understand what they are if you're going to have a successful business here. And again, it's not rocket science, this stuff. It's just a matter of getting your message across to the people you're trying to help. And if you're not getting your message across, then you're not helping them. So I used to stand up at the front of the room and I used to go like this. See this face? It's a minority. And the whole room would break up. Because, you know, there would be people from Africa there, people from different Asian countries. There would be people from Russia there, people from Arab countries. I mean, we had everything in the classroom. I'm not kidding you. And there would be maybe 1 or 2 Canadians, maybe. But usually they were people from all over the world who had come here, and now they want to start their own business. So they need to know what to do. So, you know, it was just a matter of they thought it was really hysterical, because I would do that every time I had a new class, and they just thought it was really funny. But I said, you know, I'm looking around this classroom and I don't see too many faces that look like mine. So, you know, and that's just fine. That's also exemplary of Vancouver, of the Lower Mainland. We have a very, very diverse community here, which is fabulous. I mean, we have every kind of restaurant you can imagine. There's wonderful entertainment and festivals that go on here because of the diversity. It's really an amazing place to live because of that.
Yeah.
Right.
But you have to appreciate it. And it is different. And you also have to be careful, because you could be offending people if you're saying or doing things that are against their culture or their religion or whatever. So you've got to be paying attention to how what you're saying and doing is being perceived by those around you, because you don't
Right.
want to be offending them.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure. You don't want to do that.
no, you got to pay attention. I mean, that's something that we need to do. And that's why there are so many, why I've been doing so many harassment workshops.
Yeah.
Because according to BC labor laws, the Canadian labor laws, and the Human Rights Act, people are entitled to a safe, respectable, comfortable workplace. And if employers are not providing that, they can get sued.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody who works in the company needs to understand what that has to look like.
Yeah.
So they also need to be educated. It's not enough just for the leadership to be educated. Everyone in the company needs to know what that looks like.
Right. Because they're representing the company
Of course. I mean,
as an employee.
yeah, they're dealing with their colleagues and working with their colleagues. And you shouldn't be disrespecting people that you're working with just because they come from a different culture, or they have a different religion, or their skin color is different. I mean, like, what the hell difference does it make? You're working together, so none of that stuff should matter. But you got to pay attention so that you're not offending them and making them uncomfortable in some way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's you got to be paying attention.
And that should go without saying. We should all get to know everyone's cultures.
But it doesn't work that way, Carla.
I know it doesn't. I know.
For some
In
of
the
us,
Disney World, it would. Maybe on that Disney cruise that Tyson's going on, you know?
If I go on that cruise, I'll send y'all a postcard.
There you go.
Okay, we'll hold you to that, Tyson.
Yeah, that we will. But this came to mind for me, and I want to get your guys' insight on this. Can we, here at Bringing Humanity Together, show that a legacy matters in an organization? Can we literally show that to people each and every single day, and how we connect with them, train them, do trainings with them, workshops? Can we literally do that for our clients and do that? I don't know. It could be a course. I don't know. I think that would be a great idea. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think as long as we find out what they're looking for, Chris, and provide them with what they're looking for, then in the end, they're going to be happy. And if they're happy, they will feel grateful towards us because of what we have provided for them. And that's the legacy you leave behind. You leave behind a happy organization. And then if they have another problem down the road, they're going to come back to us because we helped them before. I mean, that's how that works. I mean, that's why I had repeat business, because, you know, I would help with something and then something else would come up. And so they'd come back to me, because I would always sit down with them and we would drill down to find out what the exact problem was, so that I could make sure I was going to be providing them with the right elements in the program that were going to be beneficial and would deal with whatever was causing them their pain. But you have to find that out, because like I've said before, generic workshops don't work. They really don't, because you're not hitting the nail on the head, if you will, because you have to really drill down and find out what is causing them difficulty. What is it? And once you find that out, then we can figure out what elements are going to be beneficial, so that we can give them the right strategies, the right approaches, the right techniques, the right skills, so that they can overcome whatever it is that's making them nuts.
Right.
It's not that hard, but we have to sit down and have that conversation, because otherwise, you know, we're not mind readers. We can't figure it out. And just by asking for something general doesn't help. You know, it's just like, you know this, Carla. I mean, stress is different things to different people. Just doing a generic stress workshop probably doesn't help. We got to find out what is actually causing the stress, so that we can give them some approaches and some strategies and some ideas on how they can beat this. You know, because it could be a communication issue. It could be a time management issue. It could be all sorts of things. We have to find out what it is that's causing them.
It could be an external stress outside of work too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have to find out what it is, so that we can give them the right strategies to fix it. And that's why you have to have that conversation. It's really essential when you're dealing with an organization or even with an individual. When I do coaching, I always have a discussion with them ahead of time. Usually it's on the phone. I want to find out specifically what they're looking for.
Mhm.
Just because they phone me up and they tell me they need assertiveness. I go, yeah, why?
What's the story behind that need?
What do you
Yeah.
need to be assertive about?
Yeah.
Just,
So-
usually they're fearful of
Well,
something.
nobody's listening to me. Well, that sounds like a communication issue.
Exactly. So it's a matter of really finding out what the problem is so that we can give them the right tools. It's just having that conversation. And,
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have to be in person. It can be on the phone. I actually did it on Skype once because it was out in some far suburb and I didn't want to go out there just for a meeting on this. So there were 3 of them. We did it on Skype and they all, told me what was going on and what they wanted and so on and so forth. And I said, okay, I'm going to send you some stuff and then you guys can meet again and decide what you want and then let me know. And I will be very happy to put together a program that's going to meet your needs because otherwise you don't. And I told you that one of the companies I work for, they send me the program, and I've had the feedback from some of their clients that go, "This wasn't what we expected. It's not really addressing our needs." Well, I'm sorry, this company doesn't do that. They don't customize programs. So they have you ask for a certain topic, they have a program they send out. Period.
There you go. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So let me ask you, ladies and Tyson, what would be the call to action when it comes to giving an opportunity for people in business today to set up that legacy? What would that call to action be and what it would look like?
Well, I think we have to find out what they're struggling with, Chris, so that we can help them to just be more successful in the things that they do so that they're not having these difficulties. And I think if we can do that, their business will thrive. And if their business thrives, they'll have a legacy. I mean, they'll be able to turn it over to their kids or, whatever they want to do with their business down the road. Or they can sell it to somebody because it's something that's thriving. You have an advantage when you have something that's saleable or that's working well or whatever. And that's what their legacy would be. But, they're going to be in that situation because we help them to be there.
Right.
So this is how I look at it. They identify that we help them identify what their problems are. We help solve those problems for them, give them their tools. A company is not just made up of a brick and mortar business or an online business for that matter. They've got people working for them. What we're also doing is enriching the people that work for them to whether it be in their character or in how they give back to the community or how they function at work and what they're giving of themselves in their personal life, their work life, their community life. We're allowing them to leave a legacy. And if they're leaving their contribution, a positive contribution to that company is going to thrive, and that company is going to have that legacy that people are go, hey, I'm looking for this service. Hey, this is a great company because of all the people that are working with them, and they're working well together, and they care about what they're doing. This is a stellar company that's been around for years. It's going to leave a legacy and leave their mark on this earth. This is a company you want to work with.
Exactly.
And so it's a cycle. We're not only helping the company come up with solutions, we're also helping their employees be better people.
True.
And in the end, we all win because we're all leaving a legacy for our family, our community, and our workplace.
100% spot on, Carla. That was very well said. And I totally agree with that. And that's what we will do. And I totally believe in that because the more that we do that, the more that not only we create the life that we want to live and love, but also do the very same thing for others. And I think that's the greatest gift that we can give to each other on now more than ever before. So, Tyson, we'll definitely take you up on that offer on that cruise ship when that comes into pass. When you win that $1 million, be sure to hit me up, Sandy and Carla, because we definitely want to join you on that trip. And again, I'm so thankful and honored for each and every single one of you being in my life and being in this organization with me and helping me become not only the entrepreneur and leader that you know that I can be, but more importantly, making me become a better person overall. So I'm so humbled and honored to have you on board this journey and this quest of being the hero's journey, so to speak. And I'm glad that you guys are with me on that. So I'm so thankful and honored. And so what's going to be on tap for tomorrow for Humanity Happy Hour, Carla?
Oh, I got a lot of things rolling through my head. I haven't figured out which one. If there's any favorites, people can certainly chime in and we can address them or add them to future conversations. I haven't quite figured that out yet, which one is favorite for me.
Who would be the first person on the cruise ship? Who would be the first one on?
What, after Tyson?
That'd be that'd be the first topic for Tyson. I know that. He's like, I'll be the first one on the ship. I'll be there.
I'll be the first one on the ship, and then my fiance will be the second one.
I was gonna say whatever we do, we're gonna be third, fourth, and fifth. So
exactly. So thank you all so much for being a part of this LinkedIn Humanity live stream for bringing humanity together. And like I said, we're so thankful and honored. Just remember, we'll be always on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3:00. And Sandy and Carla, if you could stay on just for a couple minutes, that'd be great. I got a couple things to share with you and Tyson. And remember, when you win that $1 million, the first people you got to come to is us, right?
If not my parents.
Okay. We're fifth, sixth, and seventh. We'll take it. We're not going to be picky.
Yeah, without
Okay, come on. It's my parents.
Okay.
I
Tyson.
know. We love you too, Tyson. We don't mind.
All righty. All right, Tyson. Have a good one, man.
Bye.
Have a good one.